Berkshire Hathaway Inc. Deal Odds. News release. For immediate release, November 10th, 2025. Omaha, nay, Brecock A, Burka B. Today, Warren E. Buffett converted 1,800 A shares into 2,700,000 B shares in order to give these B shares to 4 family foundations, 1,500,000 shares to the Susan Thompson Buffett Foundation, and 400,000 shares to each of the Sherwood Foundation, the Howard G. Buffett Foundation, and Novo Foundation. These donations have been delivered today. Mr. Buffett's comments to his fellow shareholders follow. To my fellow shareholders, I will no longer be writing Berkshire's annual report or talking endlessly at the annual meeting. As the British would say, I'm going quiet. Sort of. Greg Abel will become the boss at Yerrand. He is a great manager, a tireless worker, and an honest communicator. Wish him an extended tenure. I will continue talking to you and my children about Berkshire via my annual Thanksgiving message. Berkshire's individual shareholders are a very special group who are unusually generous in sharing their gains with others less fortunate. I enjoy the chance to keep in touch with you. Indulge me this year as I first reminisce a bit. After that, I will discuss the plans for distribution of my Berkshire shares. Finally, I will offer a few business and personal observations. As Thanksgiving approaches, I'm grateful and surprised by my luck in being alive at 95. When I was young, this outcome did not look like a good bet. Early on, I nearly died. It was 1938, and Omaha hospitals were then thought of by its citizens as either Catholic or Protestant, a classification that seemed natural at the time. Our family doctor, Harley Hotz, was a friendly Catholic who made house calls toting a black bag. Dr. Hotz called me Skipper and never charged much for his visits. When I experienced a bad belly ache in 1938, Dr. Hotz came by and after probing a bit, told me I would be okay in the morning. He then went home, had dinner, and played a little bridge. Dr. Hotz couldn't, however, get my somewhat peculiar symptoms out of his mind, and later that night, he dispatched me to St. Catherine's Hospital for an emergency appendectomy. During the next 3 weeks, I felt like I was in a nunnery and began enjoying my new podium. I liked to talk, yes, even then, and the nuns embraced me. To top things off, Miss Madsen, my 3rd grade teacher, told my 30 classmates to each write me a letter. I probably threw away the letters from the boys, but read and reread those from the girls. Hospitalization had its rewards. The highlight of my recovery, which actually was dicey for much of the first week, was a gift from my wonderful Aunt Edie. She brought me a very professional-looking fingerprinting set, and I promptly fingerprinted all of my attending nuns. I was probably the first Protestant kid they had seen at St. Catherine's, and they didn't know what to expect. No. And my theory, totally nutty of course, was that someday a nun would go bad and the FBI would find that they had neglected to fingerprint nuns. The FBI and its director, J. Edgar Hoover, had become revered by Americans in the 1930s, and I envisioned Mr. Hoover himself coming to Omaha to inspect my invaluable collection. I further fantasized that J. Edgar and I would quickly identify and apprehend the wayward nuns. National fame seemed certain. Obviously, my fantasy never materialized. But ironically, some years later, it became clear that I should have fingerprinted J. Edgar himself as he became disgraced for misusing his post. Well, that was Omaha in the 1930s, when a sled, a bicycle, a baseball glove, and an electric train were coveted by me and my friends. Let's look at a few other kids from that era who grew up very nearby and greatly influenced my life, but of whom I was for long unaware. I'll begin with Charlie Munger, my best pal for 64 years. In the 1930s, Charlie lived a block away from the house I have owned and occupied since 1958. Early on, I missed befriending Charlie by a whisker. Charlie, 6 years older than I, worked in the summer of 1940 at my grandfather's grocery store, earning $2 for a 10-hour day. Thrift runs deep in Buffett blood. The following year, I did similar work at the store, but I never met Charlie until 1959, when he was 35 and I was 28. After serving in World War II, Charlie graduated from Harvard Law and then moved permanently to California. Student on Charles and a VAD. Charlie, however, forever talked of his early years in Omaha as formative. For more than 60 years, Charlie had a huge impact on me and could not have been a better teacher and protective big brother. We had differences, but never had an argument. I told you so was not in his vocabulary. In 1958, I bought my first and only home. Of course, it was in Omaha, located about 2 miles from where I grew up, loosely defined, less than 2 blocks from my in-laws, about 6 blocks from the Buffett grocery store, and a 6-7 minute drive from the office building where I have worked for 64 years. Let's move on to another Omahan, Stan Lipsey. Stan sold the Omaha Sun newspapers, weeklies, to Berkshire in 1968, and a decade later moved to Buffalo at my request. The Buffalo Evening News, owned by a Berkshire affiliate, was then locked in a battle to the death with its morning competitor who published Buffalo's only Sunday paper. And we were losing. Stan eventually built our new Sunday product, and for some years our paper, formerly hemorrhaging cash, earned over 100% annually pre-tax on our $33 million investment. This was important money to Berkshire in the early 1980s. Stan grew up about 5 blocks from my home. One of Stan's neighbors was Walter Scott Jr. Walter, you will remember, brought Mid-American Energy to Berkshire in 1999. He was also a valued Berkshire director until his death in 2021, and a very close friend. Walter was Nebraska's philanthropic leader for decades, and both Omaha and the state carries his imprint. Walter attended Benson High School, which I was scheduled to attend as well, until my dad surprised everyone in 1942 by beating a 4-term incumbent in a congressional race. Life is full of surprises. Wait, there's more. In 1959, Don Kia and his young family lived in a home located directly across the street from my house and about 100 yards away from where the Munger family had lived. Don was then a coffee salesman, but was destined to become president of Coca-Cola, as well as a devoted director of Berkshire. When two once choose, you not can start marry. When I met Don, he was earning $12,000 a year while he and his wife Mickey were raising 5 children, all destined for Catholic schools. Our families became fast friends. Don came from a farm in northwest Iowa and graduated from Omaha's Creighton University. And college, Shutters Chan Sterwin. Early on, he married Mickey, an Omaha girl. After joining Coke, Don went on to become legendary around the globe. In 1985, when Don was president of Coke, the company launched its ill-fated new Coke Diet. Don made a famous speech in which he apologized to the public and reinstated old Coke. This change of heart took place after Don explained that Coke incoming mail addressed to Supreme. It was promptly delivered to his desk. His withdrawal speech is a classic and can be viewed on YouTube. He cheerfully acknowledged that, in truth, the Coca-Cola product belonged to the publico and not to the company. Sales subsequently soared. You can watch Don on charlierose.com in a wonderful interview. Tom Murphy and Kay Graham have a couple of gems as well. None, I'll be sure. Like Charlie Munger, Don forever remained a Midwestern boy, enthusiastic, friendly, and American to the core. Finally, Ajit Jain, born and raised in India, as well as Greg Abel, our Canadian CEO-to-be. Each lived in Omaha for several years late in the 20th century. Indeed, in the 1990s, Greg lived only a few blocks away from me on Farnham Street, though we never met at the time. Can it be that there is some magic ingredient in Omaha's water? Und sie, schaut au, und gaunen, atulana, sick on our job styles. Then shout, Harachma, Zaishidavis. I lived a few teenage years in Washington, D.C., when my dad was in Congress, and in 1954, I took what I thought would be a permanent job in Manhattan. There, I was treated wonderfully by Ben, Graham, and Jerry Newman, and made many lifelong friends. New York had unique assets, and still does. Nevertheless, in 1956, after only 1 year, I returned to Omaha, never to wander again. Subsequently, my 3 children, as well as several grandchildren, were raised in Omaha. My children always attended public schools, graduating from the same high school that educated my dad. Class of 1921. My first wife, Susie, class of 1950, as well as Charlie, Stan Lipsy, Irv, and Ron Blunkin, who were key to growing Nebraska Furniture Mart, and Jack Ringwald, class of 1923, who founded National Indemnity and sold it to Berkshire in 1967, where it became the base upon which our huge PC operation was constructed. Our country has many great companies, great schools, great medical facilities, and each all definitely has its own special advantages along with talented people. But I feel very lucky to have had the good fortune to make many lifelong friends, to meet both of my wives, to receive a great start in education at public schools, to meet many interesting and friendly adult Omahans when I was very young, and to make a wide variety of friends in the Nebraska National Guard. In short, Nebraska has been home. Looking back, I feel that both Berkshire and I did better because of our base in Omaha than if I had resided anywhere else. The center of the United States was a very good place to be born, to raise a family, and to build a business. Through dumb luck, I drew a ridiculously long straw at birth. Second on the formula. Now let's move on to my advanced age. My genes haven't been particularly helpful. Their family's all-time record for longevity, admittedly, family records get fuzzy as you work backwards, was 92 until I came along. But I have had wise, friendly,